The rain had started before dawn, and by the time Evelyn Chen stepped out of her car on 8th Avenue, the streets of Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood were slick with October drizzle. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her assistant had booked a conference room at the Fairmont for the quarterly tech briefing, but Evelyn had cancelled it an hour ago without explanation. She needed air, space, something that wasn't glass towers and polished marble. The cafe she found was called The Daily Grind, wedged between a vintage bookstore and a laundromat. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see mismatched chairs, a chalkboard menu, and a handful of people hunched over laptops. It looked ordinary, forgettable, perfect. Inside, the warmth hit her immediately. Coffee, cinnamon, the low hum of conversation. Evelyn ordered an Americano from a barista with blue hair and found a corner table near the window. She set down her phone face down and stared at the rain instead. She'd built Chentech from nothing. 15 years of 18-hour days, of saying no to everything that wasn't code or capital. She had $3 billion, 2 patents pending, and 0 people waiting for her at home. The trade-off had seemed clear once. Now at 41, sitting in a neighborhood cafe while her competitors were probably already 3 calls deep, Evelyn couldn't remember why. "Excuse me." The voice was small, certain. Evelyn looked down. A girl stood beside her table. Maybe 6 years old, with dark curls pulled into a lopsided ponytail and a yellow raincoat still dripping onto the floor. Her eyes were wide and brown, the kind that seemed to take in everything at once. "Yes," Evelyn said, careful to keep her voice neutral. The girl tilted her head. "You look sad." Evelyn blinked. No one had said anything like that to her in years. People told her she looked intimidating, focused, powerful, never sad. "I'm fine," Evelyn said. "Thank you." The girl didn't move. She studied Evelyn the way a bird might study a window, curious, unafraid. Then she smiled, sudden and bright. "Come along," the girl said simply, as if it were the most natural invitation in the world. Before Evelyn could respond, a man's voice cut through the cafe. "Mira, what did I say about wandering off?" He was tall, maybe late 30s, with dark hair curling at the edges and paint stains on his jeans. He carried a tray with 2 hot chocolates and a muffin, and his expression was equal parts exasperation and affection. "I didn't wander," Mira said, not looking away from Evelyn. "I found someone." The man reached them, setting the tray on a nearby table. His eyes flicked to Evelyn, an apology already forming, but Mira spoke first. "She's coming with us, Dad." "Mira, you can't just—" He stopped, finally meeting Evelyn's gaze. "I'm sorry. She's been on a making friends kick lately. We're working on boundaries." Evelyn should have smiled politely, made an excuse, returned to her Americano and her rain watching. Instead, she found herself looking at the girl again, at the open, unguarded hope in her face. "It's all right," Evelyn heard herself say. The man, Mira's father, looked surprised. "You don't have to—" "I know." Evelyn stood, leaving her coffee half finished. "But I don't have anywhere else to be." It wasn't entirely true. She had 7 meetings, a board call, and a product launch in 3 weeks. But for the first time in 15 years, none of it felt urgent. Mira's smile could have lit the whole cafe. "See, Dad, I told you." The man shook his head, but he was smiling too. "I'm Owen," he said. "Owen Brennan, and this is Mira, as you've probably figured out." Evelyn. She didn't offer a last name, didn't mention Chentech or the fact that her face had been on the cover of Forbes twice. Here in this cafe, she was just Evelyn. It felt strange, it felt good. Owen gestured to the table. "We were just about to split this muffin. You're welcome to join us if Mira hasn't scared you off completely." Evelyn sat. Mira climbed into the chair beside her, so close their elbows almost touched. "You have really pretty hands," Mira said, looking at Evelyn's fingers. Evelyn glanced down. Her nails were bare, filed short, practical. "Thank you. Do you paint?" "No." "Dad paints. He's really good. He painted a whole mural at my school." Owen ducked his head. "It was just the cafeteria, nothing fancy." "It has a rainbow and a dragon," Mira said firmly. "That's fancy. Evelyn found herself smiling. A real smile, not the polished one she used in boardrooms. That does sound fancy. They shared the muffin. Mira did most of the talking, a steady stream of observations about her school, her best friend Aiden, the fact that her dad made the best grilled cheese in the world but always burned the edges. Owen listened with the kind of attention that came from practice, interjecting only to correct the wildest exaggerations. Evelyn mostly stayed quiet. She watched the way Owen's hand hovered near Mira's cup, making sure she didn't spill. The way Mira leaned into him without thinking, the ease of a child who'd never doubted she was safe. It was so far from Evelyn's own childhood, boarding schools, nannies, a mother who measured love in achievements, that it felt like watching a film. "What do you do?" Owen asked eventually. The question was casual, but Evelyn felt the weight of it. She could lie, she could tell the truth, she could deflect. "I work in tech," she said. "Software development." "Cool. Freelance?" Something like that. Owen didn't push. Mira had moved on to asking if Evelyn liked dogs, and whether she thought unicorns were real and if she'd ever been to Disneyland. Evelyn answered honestly, yes, no, once, and felt something inside her unclench. When the muffin was gone and Mira's hot chocolate was reduced to foam, Owen checked his watch. "We should probably head out. Mira's got soccer practice at 10. Mira's face fell. "Already?" "Afraid so, kiddo." She turned to Evelyn. "Will you be here next time?" Evelyn hesitated. She shouldn't say yes. She had no reason to come back to this cafe, to this neighborhood, to these people who didn't know her and didn't need to. But Mira was looking at her with that same open hope, and Owen was smiling in a way that said he wouldn't mind either. "Maybe," Evelyn said. Mira beamed. "Okay. Bye, Evelyn. Bye, Mira." Owen gave her a small wave as they left, Mira's hand tucked firmly in his. Evelyn watched them disappear into the rain, and then she sat back down at her table. Her coffee was cold. She ordered another one and stayed for an hour staring out the window and feeling something she couldn't quite name. The following Tuesday, Evelyn found herself back at the daily grind. She told herself it was because the coffee was good, that the cafe was quiet and she needed to think. But when Mira came through the door, raincoat bright against the grey morning, Evelyn felt relief. "You came back," Mira said, pulling away from Owen to run to Evelyn's table. "Mira, inside voice," Owen called, but he was smiling. Evelyn stood. "I was in the neighborhood." It wasn't true. Her office was downtown, 20 minutes away even without traffic, but Owen didn't question it. He just ordered their usual, 2 hot chocolates, a muffin, and joined her at the table. This time the conversation came easier. Owen talked about his work. He restored old buildings, specialized in murals and decorative finishes. It was steady, but not lucrative, he admitted. Enough to keep them comfortable, not enough for much else. Mira interrupted every few minutes with her own stories, and Evelyn found herself leaning in, asking questions, laughing at Owen's dry observations about 6-year-old logic. It became a pattern. Tuesdays and Thursdays before Mira's school, Evelyn would find herself at the daily grind. She started arriving earlier, staying longer. She learned that Owen's wife had left when Mira was a baby, just walked out one day and never came back. He said it simply, without bitterness, but Evelyn saw the way his jaw tightened, the way he glanced at Mira to make sure she wasn't listening. "Do you ever wonder where she went?" Evelyn asked once, quietly. Owen shrugged. "Used to. Not anymore. Mira's got me. That's enough." Evelyn didn't ask more, but at night, alone in her penthouse apartment, she thought about the woman who'd left this man and this child. She thought about the choices people made when they were young and desperate and convinced they didn't have another option. She thought about herself. It was mid-November when things shifted. Evelyn had just finished a call with her legal team. Someone was trying to poach one of her senior engineers, and she'd come to the daily grind to decompress. But when she walked in, Mira wasn't there. Just Owen sitting alone with a cup of coffee and a newspaper. "No Mira today?" Evelyn asked. Owen looked up, surprised. "She's at a play date. First time she's let me out of her sight in weeks." He gestured to the empty chair. "You're welcome to join me anyway, if you want." Evelyn sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Without Mira's constant chatter, the silence felt heavier, more intentional. "Can I ask you something?" Owen said finally. "Sure. Why do you keep coming back here?" Evelyn's first instinct was to deflect, to make a joke about the coffee or the atmosphere, but Owen was watching her with that same quiet attention he gave Mira, and she couldn't lie. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe because you don't expect anything from me." Owen frowned. "Should I? Most people do." "I'm not most people," Evelyn smiled. "No, you're not." They talked for an hour, about Owen's work, about Evelyn's career. She told him more this time, though she still left out the specifics, about the neighborhoods they'd grown up in, the ways their lives had diverged. Owen had stayed in Seattle his whole life. Evelyn had left home at 16 and hadn't looked back. "Do you regret it?" Owen asked. "Leaving?" Evelyn thought about her mother's cold disappointment, the way her father had simply nodded when she'd told him she was going to MIT, the silence that had followed her ever since. "No," she said, "but I wonder sometimes what I left behind." Owen nodded slowly. "Mira asks about her mom sometimes, not often, but when she does, I never know what to say." "What do you tell her?" "The truth, that her mom loved her but she wasn't ready to be a parent, that it's not Mira's fault." "Do you believe that? That she loved her?" Owen met her eyes. "I have to." The following week, Mira invited Evelyn to her school's fall festival. Owen had tried to talk her out of it. "She's probably busy, kiddo." But Mira had looked at Evelyn with those wide, hopeful eyes and asked anyway, "Please, Dad's terrible at the cakewalk." Evelyn should have said no. She had a product demo in San Francisco that afternoon, but she found herself nodding. "What time?" Mira's grin was immediate. 2 o'clock. Dad'll text you the address." Owen looked startled. "I don't have your number." Evelyn pulled out her phone. "I'll fix that." At the festival, Evelyn felt out of place in her tailored slacks and cashmere sweater. The other parents wore jeans and sweatshirts, their conversations easy and familiar, but Mira grabbed her hand the moment she arrived, pulling her toward the game booths. "Come on, we have to win a goldfish." They didn't win a goldfish, but they did win a stuffed bear, and Mira insisted Evelyn keep it. Owen bought them all cider and apple fritters, and they sat on a bench near the playground, watching kids run in chaotic circles. "You're good with her," Owen said quietly. Evelyn looked down at Mira, who was leaning against her shoulder, sticky fingers clutching the cider cup. "She makes it easy." "Still, not everyone." He stopped. "Thank you for being here." Evelyn didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. But later, when a woman approached, blonde, polished, with a practiced smile, everything changed. "Owen," the woman said brightly, "I didn't know you'd be here." Owen's expression tightened. "Hey, Jessica." Jessica's gaze slid to Evelyn, assessing. "And who's this?" "A friend," Owen said quickly. "A friend." Jessica's smile sharpened. "How nice. I didn't realize you had time for friends, what with raising Mira on your own." Mira looked up, confused. Owen's jaw clenched. "We should go," he said, standing. "Come on, Mira." But Jessica wasn't done. "It must be hard, though, doing it all alone. I'm sure Mira would benefit from a more stable environment." Evelyn felt the accusation before Owen reacted. She'd been in enough boardrooms to recognize a power play, but this wasn't business. This was personal. "Jessica," Owen said, his voice low, "don't. I'm just saying, she's my daughter. That's all you need to know." Jessica's expression faltered. Then she looked at Evelyn again, her eyes cold. "I hope you know what you're getting into." She walked away. Owen exhaled slowly, his hands shaking. "I'm sorry," he said. "That was—" "Who is she?" Evelyn asked. "My ex-wife's cousin. She's been trying to get custody since Mira was 2. Says I'm not capable." He laughed bitterly. "Maybe she's right." "She's not." Owen looked at her. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Mira tugged on Owen's sleeve. "Dad, are you okay?" He crouched down, pulling her into a hug. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Let's go home." Evelyn watched them leave, something sharp and uncomfortable lodging in her chest. She thought about Jessica's words. about the way Owen had looked, like he was waiting for someone to confirm his worst fears. She thought about the woman who'd left him, and for the first time in months, Evelyn let herself remember. She'd been 23, a scholarship student at MIT, brilliant and hungry, and so focused on proving herself that she barely noticed the boy in her algorithms class until he sat next to her one day and asked if she wanted to get coffee. His name was Owen. Owen Brennan. He was a year older, studying architecture, and he had a way of looking at her like she was the only person in the room. They dated for 6 months. He was kind, patient, everything her childhood hadn't been. But Evelyn was terrified of wanting something beyond her career, terrified of failing, terrified of becoming her mother. When she found out she was pregnant, she panicked. She told Owen. He'd been calm, steady, said they'd figure it out together, but Evelyn couldn't breathe. She'd just been accepted to a competitive accelerator program in California. She had meetings with investors, a prototype to build, a future that didn't include a baby. She'd left in the middle of the night, wrote him a letter she could never bring herself to mail, changed her number, told herself it was the only choice. She'd had the baby alone in a clinic in San Jose, held her for 10 minutes, long enough to memorize her face, her tiny fingers, the way she'd looked up at Evelyn with wide, dark eyes, and then signed the papers. She'd put Owen's name on the birth certificate, told the agency to contact him, and then she'd disappeared. She'd built Chentech in the years that followed, made herself untouchable, told herself she'd done the right thing, that the baby, Mira, was better off without her. But now, sitting in her car outside the elementary school, watching Owen carry Mira to their old sedan, Evelyn couldn't lie to herself anymore. She'd been a coward, and somehow, impossibly, she'd stumbled back into their lives. For 2 weeks, Evelyn stayed away. She ignored Owen's texts, casual check-ins, pictures Mira had drawn for her. She buried herself in work, took meetings in 3 cities, tried to convince herself that walking away again was the right thing to do. But then Owen called. "Evelyn, it's me. Listen, I know you're busy, but..." He paused. "Mira's been asking about you. She thinks she did something wrong." Evelyn closed her eyes. "She didn't." "I know, but maybe you could tell her that." She showed up at the daily grind the next morning. Mira was there, quieter than usual, and when she saw Evelyn, her face lit up. "You came back." "I did." Mira hugged her, sudden and fierce. Evelyn's arms came up automatically, and she held the girl close, breathing in the smell of syrup and detergent. Owen watched from across the table. When Mira went to the counter to look at the pastries, he leaned forward. "Where did you go?" Evelyn met his eyes. "I got scared." "Of what?" "Of this. Of you. Of her." Owen frowned. "Why?" "Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be." She couldn't finish. Owen reached across the table, his hand covering hers. "You're already doing it," he said quietly, "just by being here." Evelyn wanted to pull away, to tell him the truth. But Mira was coming back, and the moment passed. Thanksgiving came. Owen invited her to dinner, just the 3 of them, he said, nothing fancy. Evelyn almost said no. But Mira's voice on the phone, bright and insistent, made it impossible. The apartment was small, warm, cluttered with Mira's drawings and Owen's tools. The turkey was slightly dry, the stuffing too salty, but it was the best meal Evelyn had eaten in years. After dinner, Mira fell asleep on the couch, her head in Evelyn's lap. Owen brought out 2 beers and sat beside her. "Thank you," he said, "for coming. Thank you for inviting me." They sat in comfortable silence. Evelyn's hand moved absently through Mira's hair, and she felt something break open inside her. "Owen," she said, "there's something I need to tell you." He looked at her. "Okay." But before she could speak, Mira stirred. "Mom?" she mumbled, still half asleep. Evelyn froze. Owen's expression shifted. Confusion, then realization, then something close to shock. "Mira, sweetheart, wake up," he said gently. Mira blinked, looking up at Evelyn. "Sorry, I was dreaming." "It's okay," Evelyn whispered. But Owen was staring at her now, and she knew he understood. The resemblance, the way Mira had gravitated toward her from the start. The letter he'd received 7 years ago, telling him where to find his daughter. "Evelyn," he said slowly, "is there something you want to tell me?" Mira sat up, rubbing her eyes. "What's wrong?" Evelyn's throat tightened. She looked at Owen, then at Mira, and felt the weight of every choice she'd ever made. "Yes," she said finally, "there is." They talked after Mira went to bed. Evelyn told him everything, the fear, the shame, the years of convincing herself she'd done the right thing. Owen listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he asked finally. "Because I didn't know if I had the right." "To what? To be in her life, to be in yours?" Owen rubbed his face. "Evelyn, you're her mother." "No, you're her parent, I'm just—" "You're her mother," he repeated, firmer this time. "And she's been looking for you since the day she learned to ask questions." Evelyn's breath caught. "What?" "She used to ask me all the time, 'Oh, where's my mum? Why did she leave? Does she think about me?' And I didn't know what to say." His voice cracked. "I thought maybe she'd come back someday. I just didn't think it would be like this." "I'm sorry," Evelyn whispered. "Owen, I'm so sorry." He looked at her and she saw the hurt there, the anger, but also something else, something like hope. "I don't know how we do this," he said, "but I think we owe it to her to try." They told Mira the next day. Owen sat her down at the kitchen table, Evelyn beside him, and explained in the simplest terms he could that Evelyn was her mum, that she'd been very young and very scared, that she'd always loved Mira even when she wasn't there. Mira listened, her face serious. When Owen finished, she looked at Evelyn. "You're really my mum?" "Yes." "And you're staying?" Evelyn's throat tightened. "If you want me to." Mira thought about it. Then she nodded. "Okay." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. The months that followed were messy and hard. Mira had questions Evelyn couldn't always answer. Owen had boundaries Evelyn had to learn to respect. There were arguments, misunderstandings, moments when Evelyn wanted to run again. But she didn't. She showed up. For school pickups and soccer games and bedtime stories, she learned to braid Mira's hair and pack lunches and navigate the chaos of a 6-year-old's emotions. She and Owen talked late into the night, rebuilding a trust that had been shattered years ago, and slowly, impossibly, they became something like a family. One Saturday in March, they went to the park. Mira ran ahead, chasing pigeons, and Owen and Evelyn walked side by side. "She called you Mom yesterday," Owen said. "Did you notice?" Evelyn had. It had been casual, unthinking. "Mom, can you help with my homework?" And Evelyn had frozen, unsure how to respond. But Mira had just waited, patient, until Evelyn nodded and sat down beside her. "I noticed," Evelyn said quietly. Owen smiled. "She's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one." He reached for her hand. Evelyn took it, and they stood there, watching Mira spin in circles under the pale spring sun. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn understood what it meant to come home. 7 months later, the rain returned to Seattle, soft and steady against the windows of Owen's apartment. It was early September, and the air carried that first hint of autumn. Cool mornings, leaves just beginning to turn at the edges. Evelyn stood in the kitchen, trying to remember if Mira liked her sandwiches cut diagonally or straight across. Diagonally, she decided, pressing the knife through the bread with the kind of focus she used to reserve for board meetings. Behind her, she could hear Mira's voice from the bedroom, narrating an elaborate story to her stuffed animals about a dragon who was afraid of butterflies. "Diagonal's right," Owen said, appearing in the doorway with a basket of laundry. "But she'll eat it either way if you tell her there's a surprise in her lunchbox." "What kind of surprise?" "Doesn't matter. The anticipation's the thing." He set the basket down and moved to the counter, starting to fold a small pile of Mira's shirts. "You're getting good at this." Evelyn glanced at the lunch she'd assembled: sandwich, apple slices, carrots, a juice box. It looked like every other school lunch she'd seen. Unremarkable, normal. "It's just a sandwich." "It's not, though." Owen's voice was quiet. "A year ago, you didn't know what kind of juice she liked. Now you're packing her lunch without asking." Evelyn sealed the container, adding it to Mira's new backpack, purple with silver stars, chosen after 30 minutes of serious deliberation at Target. She likes apple juice, but only the kind without added sugar, and she won't eat crusts unless you toast the bread first. Owen smiled. See? They'd found a rhythm, the three of them. It hadn't been smooth. There had been a difficult conversation in April, when Mira had asked why Evelyn hadn't wanted her as a baby. Owen had stepped in when Evelyn froze, but later that night, Evelyn had gone to Mira's room and tried again. She'd talked about being young and afraid, about making a choice she thought was right even though it hurt. Mira had listened, then asked if Evelyn was still afraid. Sometimes, Evelyn had admitted, but not of you, never of you. Mira had nodded seriously, then asked if they could read another chapter of their book. And that had been that. Not forgiveness exactly, but acceptance. The kind children offered when adults were honest with them. Owen checked his watch. Bus comes in 20 minutes. I'll get her moving. I can do it. He paused, studying her. You sure? I thought you had that investor call at 9. I pushed it. Evelyn had been doing that more often, rearranging her schedule around school drop-offs and pick-up times. Her assistant had stopped questioning it after the third time. I want to see her off, first day of second grade. Owen's expression softened. Okay, I'll finish the laundry. Evelyn walked down the narrow hallway to Mira's room. The door was covered in drawings, some from school, some from home, a whole gallery of 7-year-old creativity. She knocked twice. Come in. Mira sat cross-legged on her bed, still in pajamas, surrounded by stuffed animals arranged in a careful semicircle. She looked up when Evelyn entered, her face bright. I'm teaching them about the solar system, Mira announced. Mr. Bear keeps forgetting that Mars is the red one. Mr. Bear needs to pay better attention. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed. But right now you need to get dressed. School starts in 40 minutes. Mira's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. Do I have to go? Yes. But what if my new teacher is mean? Then we'll handle it together. Evelyn had learned this response from Owen, not dismissing Mira's fears, but acknowledging them while still holding the boundary. But I think Ms. Rodriguez is going to be great, remember? We met her at orientation. She had nice shoes, Mira admitted. Very nice shoes. Now come on. Your dad picked out your first day outfit, and if you don't wear it, he'll be devastated. That got a giggle. Mira scrambled off the bed and went to her dresser, where Owen had laid out jeans and the new shirt they'd bought together, navy blue with a constellation pattern. While Mira changed, Evelyn straightened the bed, a task that still felt foreign, but less so than it had 6 months ago. Mom? Evelyn's chest tightened. She wasn't sure she'd ever get used to hearing that word. Yeah? Are you going to be here when I get home? It was a question Mira asked often in different ways. Testing, making sure. Evelyn understood it. She'd done the same thing as a child, watching her own mother leave for business trips, never quite certain she'd return. I'll be here, Evelyn said. We're making spaghetti, remember, with the good garlic bread. Mira nodded, satisfied. She pulled on her shoes, light-up sneakers she was immensely proud of, and grabbed her backpack. Okay, I'm ready. They walked to the bus stop together, the three of them. Owen carried Mira's lunch, Evelyn held her hand, and Mira chatted about everything and nothing. Her friend Aiden's new puppy, the book they were reading in class, Whether Astronauts Ever Got Lonely in Space. The other parents at the stop knew them now. Mrs. Kim waved from across the street. David, whose son was in Mira's class, asked Owen about a mural project. A few still looked at Evelyn with curiosity. She didn't dress like the other parents, didn't quite fit the neighborhood rhythm. But mostly they just smiled and said good morning. When the bus arrived, Mira hugged Owen first, then turned to Evelyn. The hug was quick, unself-conscious, the kind of casual affection that came from routine. But Evelyn held on an extra second, memorizing the weight of it. Have a good day, she said. You too, Mom. Then Mira was gone, climbing the bus steps and disappearing into a sea of children. Owen slipped his arm around Evelyn's shoulders as the bus pulled away. You okay? He asked quietly. Yeah. Evelyn leaned into him. just thinking. About? How different this is from what I thought my life would be. Owen was quiet for a moment. They started walking back toward the apartment, taking the long way through the small park where Mira played most afternoons. Different bad or different good? He asked finally. Evelyn considered. A year ago, she'd been untouchable, self-sufficient. Alone in a way she'd convinced herself was strength. Now she had Owen's paint-stained shirts in her laundry, Mira's drawings on her refrigerator, a standing Tuesday morning coffee date that took precedence over most conference calls. Her life was smaller in some ways, more complicated in others. Different good, she said. Owen kissed the top of her head. Good. They'd been navigating their own relationship carefully. After the truth came out, they'd agreed to take things slow, for Mira's sake and their own. But slow had gradually shifted, lingering conversations after Mira went to bed. Owen's hand finding hers during movies. The night in June when he'd kissed her in the kitchen, tentative and hopeful, and she'd kissed him back. They hadn't told Mira yet, weren't sure what there was to tell, but Evelyn had started keeping clothes at the apartment, had a toothbrush in the bathroom, stayed more nights than she spent at her own place. It wasn't official, it wasn't defined, but it was real. Back at the apartment, Owen made coffee while Evelyn checked her phone. 42 emails, 3 missed calls, a calendar reminder about the investor meeting she'd rescheduled. Her old life, the one that still existed in parallel, demanding attention. I should probably get to the office, she said, though she didn't move from the kitchen table. Owen brought her a mug. Or you could stay for another hour, work from here. I don't want to be in your way. You're not. He sat across from her. Evelyn, you know you don't have to keep treating this place like you're a guest, right? You have a key. Your name's on the emergency contact form at Mira's school. Your family. Family. The word still felt too big, too fragile, but Evelyn was learning to hold it. I know, she said. I'm still figuring out how to do this, all of it. Owen reached across the table, his hand covering hers. So are we, that's the point. Evelyn's phone buzzed. Another email, this one from her CFO about quarterly projections. The old Evelyn would have answered immediately. The new one, the one learning to be a mother, a partner, a person who existed outside her work. Let it wait. 1 hour, she said. Then I really do have to go. Owen grinned. I'll take it. They worked side by side for a while. Owen sketching ideas for a new mural commission, while Evelyn answered emails. It was domestic and ordinary, the kind of morning she used to think would bore her. Instead, she found peace in it. In the sound of rain on the windows, Owen's pencil scratching across paper, the knowledge that Mira would be home in 7 hours and they'd make dinner together. Around 10, Evelyn's phone rang. Her assistant, probably checking on the rescheduled meeting. She almost let it go to voicemail, then saw the number. Her mother. Evelyn hadn't spoken to her in 3 years, hadn't told her about Mira, about Owen, about any of it. Their relationship had always been transactional, measured in achievements, and Evelyn had never achieved the right things. She answered. Hello? Evelyn. I saw your name in the journal this morning. Another acquisition, congratulations. Thank you. I also heard, through Sandra, you remember Sandra, that you've been spending time in Capitol Hill. That's quite a change from downtown. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Her mother's network was extensive, her sources impeccable. Of course she'd heard. I've been spending time with my daughter, Evelyn said, and her father. Silence then. I didn't know you had a daughter. You didn't ask. Evelyn. I'm not having this conversation, Evelyn said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. I called you when I was pregnant. You told me to handle it quietly, so I did, and now I'm handling it differently. I only wanted what was best for your career. I know, but it turns out that's not the same thing as what's best for me. Another silence. Evelyn waited, half expecting her mother to hang up. Instead, she heard something that might have been a sigh. How old is she? Her mother asked quietly. 7. Her name's Mira. That's a beautiful name. Evelyn's throat tightened. It is. Perhaps I could meet her. Someday. It wasn't an apology. Wasn't even close, but it was more than Evelyn had expected. "Maybe," she said, "when she's ready." They hung up without saying goodbye. Evelyn set the phone down, her hands shaking slightly. Owen looked up from his sketches. "You okay?" "Yeah." Evelyn took a breath. "That was my mother." I gathered. "How'd it go?" "Better than I expected. Worse than I wanted." She met his eyes. "But I think it's a start." Owen came around the table, pulling her into a hug. Evelyn leaned into him, letting herself be held. It was still hard sometimes, accepting comfort, but she was learning. "You're doing great," Owen murmured. "You know that, right?" "I'm trying. That's all any of us can do." At 3:15, they walked back to the bus stop together. Mira burst off the bus with a drawing clutched in one hand and a fierce determination on her face. "Ms. Rodriguez is the best teacher ever," she announced, "and Aiden sits next to me, and we're learning cursive, and look what I made." She thrust the drawing at Evelyn, a family portrait, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. The figures were labeled in Mira's careful printing. "Dad." "Mom." "Me." Evelyn's eyes burned. "It's perfect." "I know. Can we put it on the fridge?" "Absolutely." They walked home through the rain, Mira between them, chattering about her day. Evelyn listened, her hand warm in Owen's, and thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Brilliant, driven, alone, building empires while running from everything that mattered. She'd thought showing up that first morning at the daily grind was chance, an accident. But Mira had seen her, had invited her along, and somehow that simple act had given Evelyn permission to come home, to the family she'd left behind, to the life she'd been too afraid to choose. That evening, after spaghetti and garlic bread, after Mira's bath and 2 chapters of their book, Evelyn tucked her daughter into bed. Mira's eyes were already drooping, but she grabbed Evelyn's hand. "Mom, I'm glad you came along that day." Evelyn smiled, smoothing Mira's hair back. "Me too, baby. Will you be here tomorrow?" "I'll be here. And the day after that? And the day after that?" Mira nodded, satisfied, and closed her eyes. Evelyn stayed until her breathing evened out, then slipped quietly from the room. Owen was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall. She asleep? Finally. They went to the living room, curling up on the couch that had become theirs. Owen turned on a movie neither of them paid attention to. Evelyn rested her head on his shoulder, watching rain streak the windows. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me try. For not giving up on me." Owen kissed her temple. "You're Mira's mom, He paused. "You're important to both of us. That's not going to change." Evelyn closed her eyes, breathing in the moment. The warmth of Owen beside her, the sound of Mira's mobile turning in the next room, the knowledge that tomorrow she'd wake up and do it all again. Pack lunches, kiss foreheads, show up. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It was better. Outside, the rain continued to fall on Seattle, washing the streets clean. And inside, in the small apartment on Capitol Hill, a family that had been broken found its way back together, imperfect, uncertain, but finally, blessedly whole.